Hello, welcome back to another Tuesday Q&A. We are continuing the cycle of alternating. I falsely advertised last time that we would try to do break it up so it's like every 3 weeks, but right now the pattern seems to be every 2 weeks with something different in between. And I think the plan is to eventually try to roll it out so that in a way that the Q&As are a little bit further apart. But for now, baby steps. Let's bring in David and we'll get the party started. Hello, David.
Hey, Brent.
It's all about baby steps.
Let's get this party started.
Mm-hmm.
How did you enjoy last week? Speed. How did we call it again? I think you had a pretty good name for it.
It was called Hot Potato. Animation Hot Potato. Although you cheated, it wasn't animation. You were just like hot potato. That's what you did. You just sort of like throw the live grenade, and you're like, whoa, oh, this. It was fun.
Great because we kind of say, hey, what about we do this? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then what I had in mind, what you had in mind were completely different, which made it even more interesting. You had those long, very specific questions, and I had like 2 words.
Okay, Brent, the color red, go. Well, yeah, that's it. Don't F it up. I don't. It was fun, I think, for a change to rather than have to like, sit there and like take a long time to try to figure out a way around like answering the question. It was just like, you have a minute. Just, brevity is not my strong suit. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, just the mental process of, okay, I have 5 seconds to organize my thoughts and then 55 to kind of and try to land it right on the minute. That was fun. Yeah. Let's do that again.
We'll do it again for sure.
But I agree that a change of pace of having those Q&A and a special event and next week should be pretty cool as well. Do you want to talk about a little bit what we have in store for next week?
Yeah. So, I mean, for those who were around last week for the conversation with, you would have bore witness to a conversation with a man named Daryl Purdy, who David and I have both worked with quite extensively. And we caught him rolling off of the Guardians of the Galaxy production over at IDOS Montreal. So they just put that bad boy out into the world, and he was the animation director. I was actually the animation director. He was the cinematic animation director, and then he ended up sort of taking on both roles, which is funny because that's exactly kind of how it went down almost back in the good old days over at Far Cry 3. So we anyways, long story short, he came on. We talked a little bit about the just the process and like what it's like directing people on the floor. And then we had a special surprise guest, and we brought on John McLaren, who played Star-Lord in the game. So he obviously had a very long-standing relationship with Daryl because Daryl would have been directing him on the performance capture floor. So for a follow-up, because people were very interested in this topic, next week we're having both him. We're having him back, and we're also going to bring in someone else that I don't think anybody around here has met yet, but Sebastian Preux, who is another associate of ours. He works over at Agora Studio now. He also worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, so he comes in from a much more of a technical perspective. He was the technical director over there on the project, and he pretty much single-handedly built the entire mocap and performance cap pipeline over at IDOS, and which was used on the Tomb Raider and the Deus Ex cutscenes, and ultimately Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
So we're going to have them on to talk a little bit about specifics.
Yeah, and something that we've discussed that would be cool to do is kind of live production diary. So basically, you guys are going to look at sequences, mainly cinematics, maybe a little bit of gameplay, and then everyone is going to chime in and talk a little bit of what happened under the hood, some production stories and a lot of the stuff that you don't always have in the making of promotional video.
Exactly.
So,
like real stories as opposed to the ones that are like just, cool and marketable. One thing I have to say, though, is spoiler alert, because we will be showing some footage from the game, both some cutscenes. So we'll try our best to not be too much of a spoiler and show scenes that are like critical to like big aha moments in the story, just for those who want to come but also don't want to have the story ruined. But we'll just know that there's going to be a little bit of spoiler stuff going on in there. So watch it your own risk.
It'll be great to have both the creative mind and the technical mind as well present in the room to kind of cover
absolutely
the creative process and the technical process from an idea to actually having it in the game.
Yeah, because truth be told, when you're dealing with performance capture, it is like you got to strike a balance on the artistic side with the technical side, because sometimes you might have an idea for that shot and it's just not going to record well for a variety of reasons. There are limitations with the gear. Head-mounted cameras have come a long way, but they still have their limitations. There are cameras that are floating in front of your face, and too much running around will have just turned the data into soup. That would be very like there's all kinds of things. So, anyways, I don't want to steal the thunder for the conversation, but there's lots of things to consider. So, yeah, we're gonna definitely pick some shots and some moments in the game that have some pretty fun anecdotal production stories behind them. So it should be pretty.
And as always, the chat will be more than welcome to ask questions, and hopefully a few of those could be thrown in.
Absolutely.
Try to keep it interactive a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Brent, I have a question for you before we dive into the audience question.
Holy crap! Why chat is like the chat's on fire right now? What's going on? Hi, everybody. So I wasn't looking at chat until right now. It's like it's very busy in there. Sorry, what you were saying.
So did you pay attention to the news today in general, Brent?
Maybe. Unity, right? Yeah. I just heard that by the end of the day. Christine told me.
So for those that might not be aware, Unity is in the process of acquiring Weta Studio for 1.6 billion.
I know that nobody knows who that is. That's just crazy. It's a small studio, just for those who don't know, out in New Zealand, in a small island in the middle of nowhere. They don't really do very many things.
Actually, you're half joking, but it's not that. It's not a big studio if you compare to like MPC and Framestore and Ireland that have basically studios
everywhere. Yeah, they have one.
They have one that is in Wellington, which is a. But yes, they are among the elite for sure.
Absolutely,
an amazing franchise. But what is actually interesting when you read the article is that it seemed that one of the main reasons of purchasing Weta is purchase the pipeline that they have and help them to put the pipeline in the cloud and providing access to everyone for production in the cloud. So that's something that Amazon is working on with Nimble as well, and that's something that probably Unreal has planned on their side as well. And now we have Unity that is also entering the game of let's create digital production in the cloud.
That's it. They're playing catch up right with Unreal, because Unreal. I don't know if anybody's been following along the sort of the stories of virtual production sort of workflows. Mandalorian made this kind of production very, very famous. There's it's spawned in an entire new department over there called Stagecraft over at ILM, and they're the ones responsible for this kind of production. It involves a kind of a circular, seamless, OLED display panel that wraps around a soundstage, and combined with motion capture technology and real, like, actual photography. But the photography, the crazy thing is that, like, the camera, like, that you're filming real actual footage on, it's able to capture people in front of this 360 screen, and they don't have to do the digital keying anymore. They don't, or the chroma keying, because they're literally capturing the real, like, actual background that's actually digital. And the way they do that is they can pair up the camera and having markers on it. The Unreal system understands where the camera is in this 3D-dimensional space, and they can shift things around, offset everything. They have crazy lighting, so they can actually match the lighting on the character space that matches the background space. Ridiculous. So obviously Unity is probably like, we want a piece of that pie. So
well, they look at the party and they're like, okay, we have to do something. And I think it's their one like big move. I'm not saying they're not going to do other purchase, but it seems to be their one bet that, okay, that's a pipeline we're acquiring. It's one of the best pipeline in the industry, and we are now holding it. Because, you look at, obviously, I mean, we've been talking for, the pandemic just accelerated this transition to remote and digital, and everything is going online. It fast tracked everything around the metaverse, whatever Facebook is doing with it, and obviously the Epic and all that, and now digital production. So everything is being digitized, and it's just one of the other. And it seems that as much as there being a big rush, like a few maybe 3 decades ago, of starting those big VFX studio and big game developers and all that, now there's the same gold rush, but who's going to own the space, or who are going to be the main players of honing those virtual studio online, that you have this one button that you just press and you're into the pipeline with all of the others. So it's very interesting. And there's a lot of money in the system as well. We're not going to make this in a financial discussion, but there was a lot of money printing. So when you see 1.6 billion to purchase a VFX studio, like, okay, that's a major move. But it's like Unity saying, okay, hey guys, we're still here. We're going to be there.
Remember us?
For
now you do.
Yeah.
It's a bold move for sure. I'm happy to see it, because it's good. As much as I love Epic and all the things that they do for the industry, and just how much they've pushed the envelope on all of this stuff. They need competition. This is so important for everybody. And this is my main complaint about. And I hate to bitch, because Autodesk also does a lot of good for the industry. But let's face it, they have a monopoly on all of the software, and it's stagnating. And it's not even their fault. It's like, that's what happens. It throws everything off balance, because there's no longer an incentive to compete and to be progressive. They're just like, okay, we have everybody, so like, now what? All they're doing is then suddenly starting to shut down some of the software because there's redundancies in their portfolio, and that's sadly how Softimage met its demise, and it should never have happened. But
and this is why there's laws that is there to break monopolies, because they know what happened. On that day. It's you cannot have a good competition that's going to allow improvement, and have a one company that has no competition. Why? Because what is the incentive to innovate if you already have the entire market?
Monopolies are kryptonite to capitalist societies, 100%. It just doesn't work.
So I think whatever you think about Unity, if you're an Unreal fan, I think it's a very good news to see that everybody there's going to be competition. So now let's get our popcorn and enjoy the show.
We win in the end. Like the creators we win, because now we have these two titans that are now like locking horns and sort of pushing each other forward. So that's going to be very, very exciting to see what happens next. That's for sure.
And I think that we already had Amazon with Nimble, that it was already going there as well. So that's
people know what Nimble is. Do people know what Nimble is? I'm just curious, like, because it used to. What was it called before they renamed it Nimble? Do you remember?
If what? Sorry.
Was it called Nimble before, and they've rebranded it?
It was called Nimble Collective, and they renamed it Amazon Nimble Studio.
Oh, okay, so close. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like some of you might be familiar with this, but basically, cloud computing meets workstations, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure the Microsoft and Autodesk at some point, maybe not them together, but those are two others. Microsoft with all the servers and cloud computing that they have, and Autodesk with their, pretty much monopoly on most of the software So anyway, it's just interesting to see.
It is
these days.
I saw a bunch of just kind of question marks on Nimble. Just I think a better way of describing it would be if you know what Stadia is, like, you know, Google Stadia, like the idea of like play or just like Microsoft Xbox, like on demand stuff. Like you're not actually processing the game at your location. Instead, you're essentially playing on a remote computer, and they're just sending you the video signal basically in real time. That it's like that, but you now can get your workstation at home, and you can sell it because you don't need it anymore. You just need a lower powered computer that connects to the internet. And then theoretically, you're connecting remotely to a workstation. This is not only more cost effective because now you just pay, like you're essentially leasing for like the top end software. I'm sure they're going to have tiers. But the more importantly, we live in a world where remote work is a bigger thing, and it's much more secure that way, because now the people that you're doing work for don't have to worry about security at your home. They have to make sure that they have to feel confident that Amazon, for instance, has good security on their stuff. And you bet your ass they're going to have pretty good security on there, much better than your home security, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the only potential leak that you can have in this situation is if you literally take your phone and film your screen and put it online, which is something that there's absolutely nothing that can prevent you, even on the workplace. I mean, most of the leaks that I've heard, even recently I heard about it, someone in dailies that is taking their phone, too excited, first week of work, hey, look at what I'm looking, and so there's no way to prevent this, but other than that, it's the ultimate security. And for everyone, it means that you basically just need a super cheap computer or even a laptop, probably decent monitor, because you still want to literally you can so that's something that we've been testing a lot recently, because we're obviously at Agora Studio super interested with all of this technology. It's not there yet. The easy one button of, at affordable price, having access to those super efficient workstation, we're not there yet, but you see the progress month over month or weeks over weeks. So it's going very fast.
It is. It kind of like the one of the, I always talk about, has been one of the silver linings of this terrible pandemic we've been living through, is that it forced the industry to figure stuff out, to make things happen that provides flexibility that hopefully we will all benefit from in the long term. But time will tell. It's still Nimble, by the way, is still in beta apparently, so it's not even like in full-fledged sort of like it's not out there in like full form yet. I think there's some productions that are probably using it in beta, but I don't know enough about it yet to be completely honest.
Yeah, it's definitely not mainstream yet, but it will. I mean, it will be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. It's coming.
It is absolutely coming. It just makes so much sense for so many reasons. Although I'll miss having a cool like machine that heats up my room whenever it's the graphics card starts whirring away and like it's just pooping out the heat. It's kind of like a heater and
you can still have it, Brent. You will just call it a heater. That's it.
That's right. That's it. That's it. I'll just have it like a render or something.
Technological heater with colors.
Yeah, nostalgic heater. So we have a couple questions. I think there was one in particular that you wanted to dig into because it was kind of a big topic. It's in our backlog, and just a reminder. I mean, we see I have a lot of people in chat today. So if you have a question or you want a topic even that you want to talk about, like we just sort of broke the ice a little bit with two interesting topics. If you got something you want to talk about, then throw it at us. But in the meantime, I'll keep the conversation going by pulling something out of the backlog here, question-wise. We have a question from that animator over there. That's a great handle. And I'm going to try to paraphrase this because it's. I'll do my best to read it. Okay. I feel I should have rewritten.
Can you still bring it on screen? Just to.
Yeah, I'm going to. It's going to be too long though. It's a problem. But I can put it in chat. It'll show up. Everyone will be able to see this. But I'll need to read it off of the sheet because it'll be too long. Okay. Almost. It's very close. Very close. Okay. I feel a company isn't living up to what their website says. That what they're supposed to be doing to take care of their employees. Part-time opportunities and allowing for study time within work hours, and I'm being pushed to the back of the line when it comes to being hired. Do I give them a bad review on Glassdoor, or should I just walk away?
Where to even start with this one?
It's a juicy one. I don't hate this question. Although I'm sure a lot of company HR managers are kind of like, Hope that's not me.
I like this question because I'm sure we're going to tackle it from both sides of
for
the
sure, as we usually do.
equation. First of all, there's something interesting in the question. He seems to be referring to company culture, like being there for their employee. At the same time, he said that when comes time to be hired, I'm pushed at the back of the line. It means that you're not a employee of this company, right? If it's the case, I think that the culture of the company is about their employees, not the applicants that are trying to get into the company. So I'm not sure if it's just the way it was written, but just have a distinction that most companies, they will try the best they do for their own employee. It doesn't mean that they need to be fair with the hundreds of thousands of people in the industry. So maybe a first thought on this one. I would say the other part, maybe an easy one. Should I give a bad review on Glassdoor? One of the few rules in life that I believe in is karma. If you're ready to give a bad review to a studio because they did not hire you because maybe you're a student or it's only part-time and you judge that it's unfair and you go to write a bad review, don't be offended if a studio is writing a bad review about your work if you didn't deliver.
Yeah, that door swings
the
both
logic
ways.
is just that usually, and me personally, I have a bad experience at a client, at a restaurant. I'm not going to write a bad review just because I don't have time for that. So my advice would definitely be just don't. It's not worth it. What goes around comes around. You put negative vibe. I mean, there's definitely situations where studio are do stuff that they should definitely be mentioned for even in the press, but this is not worth it. Just move on and go see if another studio might be more interested to hire you. Brent, what do you think?
I was rereading it again because I really feel like it sounds like, and I don't know if the person who asked this question is even out there, but basically it does sound like you're part-time at this place. And I there was a sentence in the middle that I didn't really fully kind of understand, because it sounds like you're saying that they're part-time opportunities and allowing study time with. So I guess in other words, where they're hiring people part-time, saying, hey, it's cool and we're flexible because it means that you can also do some things on the side, but even so, you're still being pushed to the back of the line when it comes to like getting offered full-time employment, because maybe that's what you want. That's how I'm interpreting it, which is similar to, I think, the way David interpreted it. I'll tell you a couple of things. One thing is for sure, and this comes from a very a good source. I have many friends actually my brother is an HR manager at a company, and I have a lot of friends who do HR. And something that was said to me a long time ago, I'll never forget this. Never do exit interviews is what they told me. I'm like, but are people like you the one advertising to do them? Like yeah, we are. But I want you to know, Brent, that it is completely selfish and one-sided, because we, the company, gain more than you gain. Because the problem is, at the end of the day, and that you take this or leave it, right? Because it all comes down to different individual relationships with companies. The problem is, if you're interviewed usually by an HR person on the way out the door, the problem is you will not have any control over the context by which that information is relayed. Not only that, but also the way it was written down and interpreted. And so the problem is you risk everything and they risk nothing. And so you have to always be careful about this, because the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is it really worth the risk of people interpreting my intentions as malice or resentment or scorn? Because honestly, you don't need that in your life, to be honest. If you had a bad experience, pack it up and find the next opportunity, move on. Because unless they did something criminal and they need to be taken to account and held to account, that's a whole other thing. But when it comes to you just not liking the way they do business, that's really honestly a personal opinion. And there might be a lot of people who are staying there who disagree. The point is, it's just honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I think David kind of said the same thing. You got to, and if you do go down that road, you have to prepare for a fight. And do you really want that? Do you have the time for that? Do you care? Do you want your name to be circulating around HR circles of like the person's a bit of a complainer, a bit of a whiner? It's like things could get blown out of proportion really quickly. You're better off just being like, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity. Good luck in the future. I'm moving on for whatever reason, and just that's it.
Yeah, I think like anything, if you find a way to turn this, what you could describe as a bad experience, this studio should be hiring me because it's part of their culture. I kind of fit into the kind of candidates, but try to turn this into something that's going to be personally that you can grow with. There's nothing that you can change for the studio. That studio doesn't owe you anything. They don't, even if technically their culture, the way you interpret it, that they should give you a fair chance and all that, they owe you absolutely anything. And maybe it's just because they don't like your showreel and they are not upfront and they don't clearly communicate it. That's it. So if it was me, I would probably put it on myself to say, you know what? I should be in the list of the people that they should be hiring because it's in line with their culture and all that. For some reason, they don't. I'm probably not good enough. I'm going to go work on my craft and become better because that's a way that I can motivate myself to be better. And who cares about that studio? There's nothing no bad review is going to make them look bad. I mean, it's just to make you look like someone that wanted to provide a bad review to the studio, which is going to change absolutely nothing. Spend this time and energy to improve, to get a better show reel, and maybe the next time, whether it's with the same studio or another one, you'll have a better chance to be hired.
A wise person once said, "You have no ability to control the way people treat you, but what you do have control over is the way you react to the way people treat you." In other words, there's no point in pushing against the grain. They just you just cannot, you can't win that fight. If it's a bunch of people, if the culture is not good for you and that's why they're not hiring you or whatever, then go find somewhere where you're going to fit in and they're going to be super happy to have you on board. There's just no point. Nobody owes you anything. Like David said, really at the end of the day, you gotta make the world you want to live in, and you gotta just move on and not find yourself in a situation where you're just locking horns with the inevitable. It just doesn't pay off in the end. And I'd also say, oh, sorry, just one more thing. The other thing I'd say is obviously the devil's in the details here, right? Like the person who has this story, who knows? And it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, that's the reality. And I was just in a conversation months ago with someone who was having problems. Like this company has pretty good reviews on Glassdoor, but then there was a couple really toxic ones. And I was talking to management of this company and they're like, they know exactly who it is. Because which is funny. They might have, you know what I mean? It's anonymous, but if you're really going to lay into them, then they can narrow it down. I mean, they're not idiots. They can probably figure it out. And so again, is it worth it? Is the real question. I don't think it is, but I've done the math a couple times.
It's really a question of where you put your energy. Also, when you understand company culture, I mean, first of all, most of companies don't even, when we talk about culture, they don't even know what we're talking about. Then there's those that know what it is and make effort to have company values and culture and all that. And then there's a very small minority of studios that are actually able to implement the culture, which means that upper management, employees and all that are going to abide by the unwritten laws of what this culture might be. So all this to say that the chances that this HR person or this supervisor and all that, even if it's written that the studio is giving a fair chance to everyone, it's impossible that everyone at all time is going to apply this in every different circumstances. There should almost be a sentence before every culture that we do our best to ... and then be fair with all employees. We do our best to try to provide equal opportunity to all that. So it's to to take a sentence of a culture or an idea and say, well, why was it not applied in that specific situation? I think it's just a little naive to think that this is even possible, even in the best places. It would be, going to a grocery and you're unsatisfied with the sauce that you purchased because it was written the best in the world, and you're like, that was not the best thing in the world. You kind of assume that, well, they're trying their best to kind of do that, and it's
that sounds like a class action lawsuit material right there. Let me tell you. I'm sure there's other people who feel the same way. You should get together and sue the hell out of that company.
Yeah.
Or not.
I think on the other side, if you are, let's change a little bit the situation. You are an employee at the studio. The studio is, are very vocal at every weekly meeting that we are providing, equal opportunities to everyone. We are fair. If you're struggling, we're going to help you. It was our call to hire you, so we're going to do everything. And if you're constantly given like second class work, which means that it's stuff that it's not only boring, no one wants to do it, but there's no way that you can improve by doing this. It's so redundant and all that. Then yes, absolutely talk about it. I mean, don't gossip, don't whine about it, but just speak to your lead or even peers around it and say, hey, what do you guys, I kind of feel that I've been in this situation for a long time, and I feel that it's disconnected with what the studios is. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, try to make it personal. You can even go see HR eventually, say, listen, this is where I see my growth. Right now, I have a hard time to see how this is going to happen because I'm always given those repetitive tasks. Is there something maybe I misunderstood about the message of this? Just do it in a way that is polite and kind, and don't be a jerk about it. But yes, you can absolutely be vocal about it if it's done the proper way, and if you feel that you're treated in a way that doesn't fit at all with what is advertised within the studio.
Yeah, it's all about framing, right? Like if you frame if it's not a complaint, then it's more about you being proactive. You're like, hey, look, I'm worried right now because I feel like I'm not growing. I feel like I'm not getting the shots that I would like to get, but I don't feel like I'm getting shots that allow me to improve to the point where I feel like people can confidently give me those shots. That's a valid argument. That's the kind of something that HR can actually sink their teeth into and be like, let's try to solve that. Because if they're serious about investing in their employees, then they have really no choice but to try to solve that problem. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And if they don't do anything, then just leave. Don't complain. Don't get mad. Just go find a place that will do that. And I make it sound easy because you might be living in a city where there's like that's the only studio, for instance, and you're kind of like, it's not so easy to just get up and leave. I totally get that part. I totally get it. And that I sympathize with you if that's the case. But but at least try to take a proactive stance on this. You might be surprised what happens.
Yeah,
especially if they're all talk with their mission statement, right? Yeah, I love the idea of pinning them with that. Like your suggestion of like, hey, I don't want to be a jerk, but like, I remember when I got hired, you were saying how you really want to invest in an employee. I want you to invest in me and I want to do the work, like make it all like, you know what I mean? Like back them into a corner and watch them squirm. And then, maybe you're going to get what you want. That way you avoid being you losing a job. You avoid being a dick and getting called out online. It's like all these things suddenly are working in your favor. You just turn those lemons, my friends, into lemonade.
Yep.
That's what you did.
And don't go write this negative review on Glassdoor.
Don't do that. It will absolutely not fix the problem. I promise you. If there's one thing I promise you, that won't fix it. There was a follow-up question that we should maybe tackle, which is fun. It was directed at me because I think it was the example of my HR buddy who told me this thing. And this is a real story. I'm not making this up. So what I got out of the conversation, because naturally I had questions too. I was like, well, that's interesting. I didn't expect you to say that. Okay, but please tell me more. Basically, the point is, again, it's just about doing the math, right? It's not like there's any malicious intent here. It's not like they're trying to undermine or try to leverage you in some way. It's just that it's just the natural what happens with that information. The studios want it because they want to. It's for one. Sometimes they don't even know why. It's just part of the procedure, and so they follow procedure and then they archive this information. The idea behind it is that they could actually take some of this criticism and potentially make adjustments to recruiting or maybe some of with the direction or the management. So there might be some areas to massage, right? The truth be told, this is easier said than done with the politics in a bigger company, but that's at least the basic idea. I think it's less likely that good will come of it from the company and more likely that bad will come for you, because again, you're on the record for saying these things. You don't know who's going to see those things. Do you have an unprofessional HR person who's going to literally just be like, oh, by the way, David Hubert was crap talking the crap out of you, by the way. I thought you should know. Maybe they're buddies. Maybe they hang out at night. HR, like, it would be completely wrong for them to do that, but it wouldn't be the first time someone did something wrong, right? So basically, you just never know. And don't assume anything, and just play your cards close to your chest when it comes to being very openly critical about a company. Just because, unless you're willing to pay the karma consequences later on, don't tell us we never told you so, I guess basically is what I'm saying. There's another big long question here. You want to get this one or?
Which one are you looking at? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let's go with that big, long one.
Yeah. Oh geez, I can't. Okay, let me read it first and I'll bring it up because I can't read it with the blue on top of it. Okay, I'm curious about advice for people transitioning to animation mid-career. When looking for positions before, this is that gay hobbit, which is also a very, very interesting handle. Have a solid reel. When looking for positions before you have a solid reel assembled, should we be looking for any type of role on the art side, or is it okay to stray into production, marketing, etc.? Would looking at a resume of unrelated art experience be viewed more favorably than experience on the production side, for example? Well, that's a very specific question. You're asking for a friend, probably, right?
I'm actually rereading it a second time.
There's a lot in there to unpack.
Transition to animation mid-career. Okay, transitioning to animation.
Like from animation. Another artistic. Okay. I assume it sounds like another artistic kind of profession, because it seems like he's like they're suggesting. Let me just say it again. Suggesting that unrelated art experience. So I guess unrelated to animation. In other words, should you wait to build a really rock solid demo reel, or is it okay for you to have maybe a couple pieces of animation, just say that you're on the journey, but hey, look at all this other experience to back up who I am as an artist and how I think, is basically, I think, the question.
I think any experience that you have as a professional artist or someone that is working within a creative industry is super valuable. Because, one of the things that they don't teach at school, or they don't teach enough, is how to be a professional artist, how to behave with others, how to deal with deadline, how to deal with stress, how to deal with when you have to redo everything over. All the situation that you're going to face that has nothing to do about putting another keyframe. So this is super valuable experience. As would you need a killer show reel? That really depends what you're looking for. If you're looking to be a character animator at Disney, you're going to need it. If you're looking to maybe be a assistant technical animator in a big video game that has simple technical tasks that are maybe easy to do at first, but you're going to work under the leadership of a very strong technical minded, and you're going to learn on a daily basis. If that's something that interests you, no, you do not need a super strong show reel for that. I think it's mainly a matter of finding both what you're naturally good at, what you're interested by, and what opportunities that you have in front of you. The classic go with the flow. Don't have okay, this is my plan, and then trying to find where that plan exists in the universe. No, just look around you and be like, oh, there's maybe an opening over here, and maybe this opening could lead to this. So you kind of make the plan with what you see around you, right? The path of least resistance. And then you spend less energy to get faster to your goal this way. But I would say whatever position you're in now, whatever the industry, as soon as you're like, you know what, I think I'd like to do this, you already have chosen that you're going to do this. It's only a matter of when, and how hard are you willing to work, and how many opportunities do you have around you, and how you're going to be able to recognize those opportunities and take advantage of them.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically asking if you're barking up the right tree without having the rock solid demo reel in your hands. And I think it depends on what tree you're barking up. Really, like David said, I don't really have anything else to add other than depends on what company and what the role is, because some people are looking for people that are a bit more well-rounded anyways, right? Some smaller indie shops, or just boutique VFX shops or indie video game development shops. These are shops. These places are not necessarily looking for highly specialized people. They're looking for well-rounded. So it might be enough that you have some animation skills that are developing, but you have all these other things that you bring to the party, and that's worth more than some hot shot who's really good at animating but doesn't know anything else. It really depends on what they're looking for.
So we often have the illusion that having a strong showreel is a milestone, that, okay, one day I'm going to get to this level and then I'll be set. No, it's just a constant evolution. And eventually there's one of the reel along the way, you have no idea when, that's going to be good enough for some people in some part of the pipeline somewhere in some studio. And after that, you're going to continue to evolve over time. And then eventually you're going to plateau. But it's basically like, physical exercise. You don't do it for like 2 years and then, all right, now I'm fit, I can stop, and that's it, I reached that goal. No, you're just going to continue over time, and then eventually you're going to plateau. Then you're just going to continue, and until you continue, you stay in shape, and eventually you stop and you're not in shape anymore. Like, I've not been animating myself for 8 years. I was a pretty good animator. I'm not anymore. It's just a muscle that just disappeared over time. So don't think that you're going to reach, okay, I have the good showreel, now let's get this party going. No, you're just going to slowly increase, and eventually you're going to get in there, and you're going to continue to improve, hopefully, and get better and better opportunity over time.
Let me take this opportunity to also dispel a myth that has been floating around for quite a while. This idea that people don't want to put the demo reel out until it's ready, until it's ready. You know what? Honestly, I don't put yourself out there. I think that there's no reason why you can't just start. Even if you got something that's not up to par with what you think it is, who cares? I think there's this feeling that, but what if I put first impressions? It's like, you know what, honestly, nobody gives a crap about first impressions. Yeah, they might laugh at your reel. Maybe it's really bad. But if you come out another month or two afterwards with already pretty big updates, they're going to be like, oh, hold on, maybe I was wrong with this person. They don't care. They might even actually prefer to see the trajectory of just how good you're getting in a short period of time. It might even work out to your benefit that you show them something laughable, and then 3 months from now, suddenly it clicks and you're doing stuff that's they're going to be. Everybody loves an underdog. Everybody. And a recruiter would feel awesome about finding somebody who was once, maybe just even 3 months ago, would have been laughed off out of the interview, is now suddenly providing material that is really on spot. And so, I don't see the disadvantage. I just don't, because all they care about is what you can do now, not what you could do yesterday or the day before. So start building that brand, like Manny would say, and put yourself out there. Don't wait, just go.
Yep.
Because you never know what can happen.
All right. What about this question from Veronica? What is it? Let's start with because animation.
Okay. Because animation is kind of an unconventional career path, I think it's her parents talking there, or someone's parents talking. How do you explain it?
She's actually asking for her cousin.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's definitely not Veronica. How do you explain it to friends/family who have, well-meaning concerns about your career choice overall, or how you're pursuing your career, asking you for a friend? I was catching that drift real early.
Jesus Christ. I think that Brent and I are coming from that generation. But I think now people are well aware of how much money those movies are making, and how much video game is making twice as much as all of the movie industry combined, and how much work there is in this. So let's just say that if it's a concern about having a career or having work or being well compensated, I mean, ask them to Google it. That's an easy one.
True. Information is free.
Yeah, I would say 20 years ago, maybe it was a tough sell. I mean, I've told the story many times, but when I got into school, they told me, that's going to be really fun, but don't expect to ever work, because there's 12 studios in Montreal. And if you send your showreel to the 12 and they don't hire you, well, that's
then
it.
you're
There's
done. Yeah.
no other options. Nowadays, it's a complete different ballpark. But if you're talking about being a professional artist in general, that's an interesting question. What would be your take on this one, Brent?
A professional artist? Oh man, like someone who like gets commissioned to do paintings, kind of professional artist? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean technically, us as animator, we are having a career at making art, right? In general. So I don't think that anyone would be concerned that there's enough work in our industry, but they might be concerned of, professional artists. I don't know, is it going to be too hard? There might be too much overtime, or your artists on set are sensitive peoples, or you're going to get, I don't know. I'm assuming that this is the concern that some parents or friend well-meaning could have.
I think that it is, we live in a different era, but for some reason, as soon as you have kids, you suddenly apparently don't pay attention to how the world works in entertainment. I mean, I say this because I've said this before, so I sound like a broken record. I apologize for anybody who's heard me field this question before, but I used to teach at a school local to here, a really great school called Dawson College, and we would do these weekend open houses. And so we would build a booth, and we would put up literally boards behind us, and we had multiple televisions playing the demo reels of people that were just recently graduates, now working and making like big motion picture films. And still questions would, with a straight face, ask me like, but like, really, like, I mean, does my daughter really have a chance? Like, and usually one of the arguments usually is about whether they should go to university or whether they should go to college is actually the popular question. But there's still some that are just literally just, they think that it's still like the chances of making it in as a musician, for instance, or an actor or an actress going, like the whole dream of moving to LA and becoming an actor and actress. It's like that seemed like a bit of a crapshoot because the odds were not in your favor because there's only so many positions and there's so many people who'd want to do something like that. But I agree with David. I mean, it depends what city you're in. But even then, that could be solved. I mean, you moved out of Montreal, even though there were lots of work here, and you went all the way down to LA to work at DreamWorks. So, like, if you're willing to move, the companies are willing to hire you if you have the skills. So there is absolutely the information, like Data said, is all out there. You just have to. I would just maybe take a couple hours one night to collate a bunch of information, like the kind of the medium salaries for junior artists, so they can know that you're going to get paid enough to be able to have a living wage. The things that moms and dads would probably care about, and just say like, there it is.
Maybe you don't have to convince them, and that's the chip you have on your shoulder, and that's going to motivate you even more to work hard to have a good career. Because, I mean, there are some art form. I would have even my child. I would come to me and say, "I want to be an opera singer." I'll be like, "Okay, cool, but how many, opera singers is there in the world that it's their main? This is their main source of income." I don't know. I'm going to throw a random number, like 500, maybe more. But the odds of. So I would maybe say pursue your dream. But what is your plan B, just in case that doesn't work? Is there anything else that you might be interested?
Yeah.
But for animation, it's a thriving, and unconventional career path. What is a conventional career path nowadays? I mean, there's especially with the generation, the post-war generation, the baby boomers, that you go to school, you have your degree, you go, you work in a big corporation in the same place for 30 years, and then you have your pension, you're going to retire. It was a very easily planned career path that they could observe. But now it's completely changed. It's not that at all anymore. It means that it puts a little bit more pressure on the shoulder of everyone to kind of be proactive and create their own path. But it also means that there's so much opportunity if you're willing to put yourself out there, that it's changing fast. It might be unconventional, but compared to a job that would be predictable but that you would hate. So
I think first of all, one other thing I should say here is, in full disclosure, I was lucky enough to have parents that completely supported this. I don't know why I got so lucky. I think that it chalks up to my father, who chose to be an engineer. we still have stacks of his paintings downstairs in my mom's basement. Stacks. He was very prolific. He did a lot of painting. He was very artistic, and I think that I got lucky in the sense that he kind of wondered what would happen if he chose that path, but he chose a very professional path, like an engineering path instead, a very academic route with lots of school. And so he probably secretly wanted to live vicariously a little bit through me, his son, to sort of, see what that would like. You kind of, because when you're a parent, you kind of really do live vicariously through your kids. I know that I'm doing it right now as my daughter's 6, and I've lived vicariously through these sort of like awkward moments, trying to learn social skills and make friends, and how that's hard. And like, there's like, I think it's why parents say they connect, and it really hurts them when kids are not doing well, and they feel so joyous when the kid's happy and they're succeeding at something. So it's I get it. I don't fully get it yet, but I'm starting to get it as obviously my daughter gets a little bit older. But I think that the main thing is, speaking from a father, a new father's point of view, is you're going to want to make sure that your parents at least know that it's a viable job. Can you earn a living wage? That's number one. Are you going to be on the street and they're going to have to take your ass back in and take care of you? Or are you going to be okay? Basically is number one. And then number two, you have to couple that with how much you really want to do it. Because, I don't know many parents that if you can prove that it's viable and you can prove that it's your dream and you get to go live it and there's not really a lot of risk, then there's no one's they're going to get behind you, if they care enough. They may have a hard time, but like David said too, worst comes to worst, you could just be like, roll the dice and show them, right? I mean, my dad, he used to complain about me playing video games like all the time, and I still remember the day that he kind of awkwardly, in the sort of way that he knew how, kind of sort of make an apology about all the days he'd busted my balls for like being into video games. It's like, I guess I'm supposed to apologize now because you're making a living on. Anyways. Yeah. And then I'm like, was that an apology, Dad? I don't even know. So, I get it. But yeah, live that dream. You'll make it. There's lots of opportunity out there. It's not like it used to be, like David said.
Yep.
I have faith in your friend, Veronica, I guess is what I'm saying. A lot of faith. What's next?
All right. What else do we have in the chat?
Yeah, I got another one here. When there's a question, I'm always hesitant. I mean, I feel bad because there's some newcomers that come in here, and I mean, well, actually, there's only one other question, I think. So let me just ask it then, because I was going to say sometimes questions come up a couple times. Like there's a kind of popular questions, but I think we can do this because I don't think there's anything else there. So, what are some valuable skills to have when trying to get into an animation, get into game animation that studios want?
So I think that we definitely had that question. All right, Brent. So that's your expertise. You have 2 minutes. Do it.
Oh God, here we go. All right. So basically, this is actually the easiest question on earth to answer. Start learning an engine. Learn how to animate. Absolutely. Make sure you understand body mechanics, but more importantly, understand how they fit into the big equation that is games, because you're not an animator in a game company. You are a game developer, and you happen to know how to animate, and you are going to be in charge of making, this is assuming you're doing game animation, like you said, not cinematics. You are in charge of making sure that one of the most important and most sort of visceral feedback of the loop between a player's brain and the avatar on screen, making sure that you are essentially feeding back what's actually happening based on the inputs on the controller. So that is a very mechanical job, to be honest. You're more of like a roboticist that's programming a robot how to move and making sure that it moves in an appropriate way when the control is pushed in a certain direction. So I would say start developing those skills, because you're no longer, your feedback loop is no longer animate, play blast. Hey, that looks pretty good. Let's keep going. Refine. No, yes, you might still have play blast in there every once in a while, but you're going to send that to the engine and play the animation. Not play it like press to play, but I mean interact with it with the controller. And only then will you know that it's working, because you're not looking for something that looks pretty. You're looking for something that plays really well. And how did I do? 7 minutes? That was 2 minutes.
That was amazing. I just wanted to mention that there's someone in the chat that is either Daryl or I stole this picture. So, hey, Daryl, if it's you.
Oh, that's amazing. That'd be really amazing if someone was just like totally pretending to be Daryl. Hey guys, you're not, tell us something that only David and I would know about you. It's okay. No one's listening. Go ahead. Something extra private so you can be really embarrassed.
Doing that, I think
I want to see what he comes up with.
I'm going to send you this one from Van Animator.
Oh,
in the chat, Brent. That's one that I was scrolling and see what.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I can ask you that. Obviously, you're a game. Otherwise, you wouldn't say it was
Well,
okay. So, no, it's good.
Put it in the down there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Okay, here we go. This one's for David. I think this came from Scott. Actually, it's a good one because I actually would like to know the answer to this question. All right, here it is. David, when you interviewed for DreamWorks, was it still a 2-hour marathon? I assume it's somewhat famous for being, people talk about it as being a 2-hour marathon.
So it was a 2-hour marathon to try to convince me to go work at DreamWorks. It was really the most surreal interview that I've ever had. I cannot say that I was stressed before, but I saw that it was like 2 1-hour interview with 6 different people, and I was in London, so it was in remote. And back then, remote video was this very strange thing. I actually had to go in an office somewhere with a security guard, with someone. They brought me in the room. I had no idea what I was doing there. And then eventually on the wall, like 6 people that I didn't know show up. And then for an hour, they tried to convince me to go at DreamWorks. At the end of the hour, I was like, okay, that was weird because they didn't really challenge me or test me. And then we're like, okay, probably that's the second hour. Second hour, another group of people, same thing. After 2 hours, I was like, all right, there's no way they're going to hire me. They didn't ask me, they didn't challenge me about anything.
Oh man!
And 2 days after, HR made me an offer. But what is very interesting is that when I was myself doing interview at Eidos Montreal to hire animators in the cinematic team, I found myself doing the exact same thing.
That's true.
I was actually, and Brent, you were there. You
man.
It was basically, I was targeting the people that I wanted.
Yeah.
And when it was the interview and they were ready to, okay, I was just selling them why they should come.
That's it. Yeah.
And in a way, it's their reaction to this sell pitch that was telling me a lot about them. Are they getting excited? Are they asking the right question? Are they interested? Are they genuine? And all of this, which was way more about who that person is, rather than asking question about technical software, all that. And it's only recently that I said, that moment that made no sense for me, eventually this is exactly the same thing that I did later on. And it's almost like this. Well, first of all, you target the people, you already want them. You're not just randomly meeting 20 people and just go through.
Well, that's not everybody though. Like you orchestrated that, right? Like, I mean, cause a lot of companies, it does end up being like the recruiters are handling all of it. And then you just sort of show up to interviews because they're booking it. You're like, that would be a waste of my time. So you're like, you will go and take a look at these people individually, make a short list. And so you are already interested, basically. Yeah.
And I realized that this is exactly the same thing that DreamWorks was doing.
That's
and
so
in
funny.
a way, they were interviewing me just in a way that I never realized it. They were just in real time analyzing all of my reaction on this sales pitch.
It's smart. I mean, like you and I, it got pretty funny, you and me. Like we ended up being like recruiting machines over at Eidos, and we had like a way, like we'd always have a place to meet them. I would set it up, and then we would just we knew what we were doing. We go in there and we were going to tag team pitch the hell out of what we were trying to build over there. And it's true. We that way we had our bases covered to make sure that we at least, like, if by the end of the interview, we do really like this person because they had a lot of good questions and they really seemed into it, we don't have to now, we've already sold it. So basically the job is already done. Like, it's like we gave them a reason to be excited because we gave them some good information about the vision that we have for the team and the project and all these things. So it kind of works out really well. Otherwise you'd have to you just do that cold interview with hard questions and then maybe scare them off. Maybe they're not even interested anymore because they weren't even feeling welcome. And it's stupid because,
and it totally happened that after an hour of trying to sell the project, the studio, the team, their role in the team and all that after this hour, oh boy, we're not going to hire this person. And again, it was usually because, no connection, no positive emotion, no excitement, no spark, no leading to an interesting conversation and starting to riff, because basically the best interview, after 20 minutes, you're just brainstorming ideas and you're like, okay, that person is going to be a great creative mind that we can brainstorm with. And the connection was made by not knowing each other after 20 minutes is going to work. That's going to work for sure.
Yeah. And that's much better than just answering a bunch of cold, hard questions. It's more like now you're getting a taste of what they would be on a production floor. You know, like, oh, wow, that's that. They're actually a very natural collaborator. It was very easy. And like, why, like you give like, there's no reason why you wouldn't want them on the team now.
And which is why I was doing my own interviews. By the time I was involving HR, I was basically say, okay, that's the person I want. That person already accepted. Those are the dates. I can already tell you a ballpark of what kind of salary they'll be expecting. It's fine. I already checked with budget. It's all good. Please do the paperwork and make it happen. And then I was just leave, because the most important part of do I want this person and does this person wants to work with us was already done.
David, I got some good news and I got some bad news. The good news is this person is actually Daryl for sure, because the answer to the question, tell us something that only we would know, and his answer is actually pretty awesome. His answer was, everyone at work, this was his answer. Everyone who works with me says I don't talk enough. I need to come out of my shell. So so yeah, that's definitely Daryl, because that's completely the opposite of the truth, and that is definitely his sense of humor. So that's for sure him. The bad news is that he's calling you out because he says, and I quote, "Is it all going to fit here? Wait a minute. You asked me to give an example of my best quality and my worst fault and how I would deal with both in a day-to-day situation. It was the most corporate HR question of all." Let's just say David might have developed a little bit since then. Oh, that's funny.
So wait, Daryl, is that the first time or the second time that I hired you? Because you kind of bailed on us in the middle of those two. So we're going to need another stream with Daryl just to fix this one.
Well, that's convenient because Daryl's going to be back in the show next week. So I guess we'll just have to wait till then, everybody.
Yep, it was a perfect non-planned cliffhanger.
Yeah. That's it. If you want to see what happens next, you have to tune in next week to see who wins this battle of the wits. Okay, well, that's time, everybody. We're 5 minutes over. Thank you for being here. It was actually great today. Lots of activity in the chat. I'm wondering if I'm curious. I made a couple changes on Restream. It actually now sends out a tweet on Twitter, on our Twitter account. And I don't ever set it up before. I don't know why. And then, so I don't know if that was one of the reasons why we got a bunch of people piling in really quick, but I have to continue to do that. So hopefully you all enjoyed the conversation. You come back to the next one. As David and I said, we will have Daryl back with Seb Crew to talk a little bit about production stories on Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to have a couple some videos to play. We'll talk about them a little bit. Daryl can entertain us with some of the shenanigans that happen on set, and Seb can tell us of some of the trials and tribulations of making all of Daryl's crazy ideas actually come to life, because he was, of course, the magician behind the scenes, being the technical director and the one holding sort of the whole pipeline together with probably his pure will. So that will be next week on our conversation with, and I hope to see you all then. David, until next time, see you around, my friend. Cheers.
See you, Ben.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Have a good one. Talking to you later.
Dun, 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 dun.